Yeah, this is the conclusion of this four-part, going over this whole thing of DC Comics 2000. So Jay Garrick has told Thomas Oscar Morrow's mom about something dealing with her son, that there's a danger. And here is her son from the future, and he's giving another cheat. This is a guy who's not a very good doctor. So Dr. Morrow says here is the human genome in a compact disc. You know, this is still 1940, and he's got all these things he shouldn't be having. All these computers, this is a computer we might see today with the laser jet and the big. But we still use big quad core processors and stuff. We haven't figured out everything yet, but it's at this point that the Justice Society is, they've had time to think about what's going on. They've had time to think about some things. They haven't figured out everything, but they figure at this point they want to keep the technology, but they don't want this guy to have it. So they know this guy's still the bad guy, but they don't want him to have the technology. So they make him try to give it back. And so they do take it away from him. There's nothing that he can do. They do take it away. At this point now, they have the disc. They have all these things. And there's going to be a dark future that's going to come out of all this, as we'll see soon. He comes back, Dr. Morrow comes back to the future, and the future is very different. What we're seeing here are these superheroes on steroids, these ghetto rock and roll. It's not unlike those future superheroes from Kingdom Come. If you recall Kingdom Come, you had a new generation of superheroes, but they were more like WWE superstars, wrestlers who were on steroids, wrestlers who were out of control, people who just wanted to cause chaos and hurt people. And this was sort of a dark future where the old superheroes retired and the new ones took their place. So it has echoes of that in here. So at this one, what you're seeing is these big, burly superheroes, these heavies. You got the Flash and the Atom heroes. You got Hawkman and Green Lantern heroes. You got Starman and Midnight heroes. So T.O. Morrow is scared as hell. He doesn't know what to do. He's been trying to fix the timeline to fit his own needs. And the JLA, I guess with Hourman's help, has been one step ahead of him. They've been one step ahead of him and trying to undo the mess that he's making. So they've been playing this very four-dimensional game of chess. He's desperate to fix the timeline, but there's nothing he can do right. Meanwhile, these new JSA heroes or anti-heroes are power hungry. They just want to take control of everything. It's a very big mess. And this happened because the original JSA took control of all the 90s and 2000s gadgets and made use of it, and it ended up creating these steroid heroes here. And now it's just a mess. And over here, we got Hourman, and Hourman's telling him, you know what, there's another catastrophic change, and there's more going on, and in about almost 1 minute, they're going to have control to Morrow's computer, and it's going to change everything again. And this time, if they do change it, I guess what he's implying is that if they change it again, there's nothing that this Hourman can do to remind the heroes that they have to go back in time again and change anything. This is it for them. So they have to do whatever they have to fix this mess. And meanwhile, back in 1941, we have a struggle between Spectre and Dr. Fate. They've got all this technology. They're in a much better jet. They're trying to figure out DNA strands, which should not be possible in 1941, but they're figuring all this stuff out. And Batman and Superman are still encased in stone, and the Spectre wants to keep them that way. Um, and Dr. Fate reminds them of what they're doing, what he's doing wrong. Yeah, and so Fate tells them, Batman was right. You're afraid of things you cannot control, so you lock it up. Spectre is a metaphor for older people who want to lock up their grandkids because their grandkids are saying the F word. They want glow in the dark tattoos. They want body paint instead of wearing clothes. They want to do rock and roll. They want to do all kinds of weird stuff that grandparents don't understand. They want they want control of those things. And so what can you do to control it? You just lock it up. But everyone gets old. You know, I won't name the Southern California city, but the city I was volunteering at, it was a theater. Um, this was strange. Um, the city did not want to vote for marijuana dispensaries in their city. And so there was a council meeting of different leaders, different leaders of Chamber of Commerce leaders, and they were discussing about the city's wanting to put marijuana dispensaries. Now, majority of the people didn't want to do that because it was wrong and it was too liberal. It was not cool. What if kids started smoking weed? But kids are smoking weed anyway. That's what they don't realize. In 25 years, who are going to be the old people? Myself, my peers, people I went to high school with, and we're going to get old, and uh, we're going to have to allow these dispensaries because now we have legalized pot now in the state of California. So those dispensaries are going to come one way or the other. So it's learning to accept the future, and Spectre has to learn this in his own way. So he lets go of Batman and Superman. So there's a lot of analogies here, and so we're now getting into the final act where Dr. Fate has the power to teleport everyone to the year 2000. And here's this nice two-page cinematic panoramic view. Everything is so dark. You see this future. You see the poor Morlocks, the dregs of the society. The people are in the bottom, and we have, if we can show it properly, all the more of these people gassed. These are Our Man Sandman heroes, and they're treating the people like cockroaches. This is what they do. This is it's like racist police, extreme police. You got the Midnight Starman heroes here, but these are anti-heroes, and so this is a corrupt society, much like the Kingdom Come corrupt society. It's the sort of why do these heroes exist? But they exist because of the mess of the timeline. It's up to the heroes to save the day. And pardon me. Here, T.O. Morrow goes back to 1941. He takes out Jay Garrick. He's now confronted with his mother and his younger self. At this point, I think that once he kills his mom, he'll cease to exist, or maybe he'll do something else. I don't know. He's committing murder on a very giant metaphorical level. Meanwhile, you've got the heroes in the year 2000 doing their thing, beating up the heroes, beating up the anti-heroes. They're getting closer to the giant computer, the Gideon of 2000, and they want this Gideon, quote unquote, to control all of time and space, kind of like Darkseid. Everybody's fighting everybody, more fighting, more fighting. And I think this is the hardest part of the fight is where T.O. Morrow fights himself. It's like if you could go back in time and look at yourself, what would you tell yourself if things are going to get better or worse? If you were doing drugs, you go back in time and say, stop what you're doing, stop doing the drugs. Or if you were worried, if you were in a dark past, can you tell yourself things are going to get better? Things do get better from here. So Jay Garrick kind of is the mediator, and he tells him, this is what this is what life is about, looking back and looking forward. Um, it's kind of like when you have bad kids who are going on going to juvenile hall. They need a pep talk from like these ex-convicts or convicts, a good boot camp. This is sort of like that metaphor. We got Dr. Fate pushing the anti-heroes in the future back in the year 2000. So we're going back from 1941 to 2000, back to 1941 to 2000, and we have this great, heroes versus the machine. They fight, they destroy the machine. At this point, Dr. Morrow is like on his knees in agony, just in mental anguish. Jay Garrick doesn't know everything that's going on, but he has an idea. He can kind of see what he's doing. He can kind of see his future self, even though his future self is not there to talk to him. He's asking the enemy, the antagonist, to just go back, go forward, and find out for ourselves, what we can fix. So this is a turning point. There's more fighting going on. The Spectre lends a hand. Jay Garrick decides, you know what we're going to do is we're going to just put all these things back, and we're going to have T.O. Morrow help us put these things back. And so everything does go back. The guns, the just appearing just in the nick of time, the heart, the helicopters, the rockets, the nuclear missiles, the microwave, the laptop, everything, the satellite, everything has to go back. Yeah, everything's fixed. We got Regis Philbin, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire reference. I think most people know. Even the kids might know. We have a sort of cordial ending right here, and they basically say this whole thing never happened. Their memories will be erased in 1941. So nobody remembers. The Justice Society of America do not remember what happened the whole time. And it's like, I like this phrase, I didn't do anything, which is true. He didn't do anything because everything was fixed. We get a closing scene of September 1st, 2000. I guess it's taking place a couple of weeks later. T.O. Morrow's in prison. He's thinking about his whole life. I think he realized he really fucked up, and what can you do? You have Dr. Ivo, who created a Mazo. He turned into a mutant of some kind. He has an idea for taking out the Justice League, and just now is not the time to do that. And that's about it. With these two books, let me see if I can get the other book for a moment while I have the time. With these two books, there were a lot of metaphors, and for those metaphors, it was about bridging the gaps. Now, of course, I think of Kingdom Come being the best superhero story ever, but we're talking about time travel and going back in time and forward in time. There are so many metaphors we think about when we think about time travel. We think about not messing with the timeline, not fucking up the timeline with tomorrow things, not changing history, not doing immoral things, and all those things were in these two books. The whole point of this was to really examine what happens when you have two greatest superhero teams go back and forth in time, dealing with their future selves, dealing with alternate futures, dealing with metaphors, fearing the next generation and fearing the last generation. There are plot holes in this, and I'm trying to think if I should give it. I'm going to give both books a 9 out of 10. The first one's a 9 out of 10, and the second one is a 9 out of 10. This is something that you can find on eBay. You could find on Amazon, Frank & Sons in Southern California, comic book conventions. Look at any Comic Cons or any WonderCon. Look around, try to find these two books. You will not regret it. It's a very self-contained, non-multi-issue crossover thing. And that's it. And there hasn't been any other DC 2000 episodes on YouTube. So here's the first one. Take it as you want it. and fly right.